Once More with Feelings. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Beth. And this is an emotional journey podcast where we go through the ins and outs of multimedia that moves us.
We're going in a little different direction this week. We are going
kind of hearkening to the new year.
We are going to do our first music episode where we talk about a bunch of songs. Between the two of us, we have about 6 songs, and what those songs mean to us, and then what the other person, how they feel about that song. Is that how else can we describe that? It's kind of like what we do with the movies, but with and no Castellini test.
Right.
Because that would be hard.
Although some of these, I think we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
So we wanted to try it with music because music is very important to Michelle.
I do like music.
It is important to me, but I have a different way of viewing music. And I think that it would be interesting for us to just discuss the subject. So we're going to talk about our feelings, but we're going to talk about 3 songs in particular each that are thematic for us in some way.
Yes. So our personal thematic.
In this case,
yes,
that's what we're going to be going with.
We'll have different themes for different episodes with different songs.
If my phone dies, I will have a lot less to say because I have it on my notes on my phone and it's low.
Oh no.
So let's start out. I'm going to be going with the Beatles, 1965, We Can Work It Out. The reason I'm going with this is this record that I got when I was a kid. I was very young, and my mother had given me this record when she bought record players, individual record players for all 3 children.
Mm-hmm.
My 2 brothers and myself. We each had our own record player, little not cardboard, but the cheap board record players that came out in the late 70s. The very first record I ever got was the single. It is a double A-sided record, We Can Work It Out, and Day Tripper.
Yep.
What double A-sided means, for those of you that don't know, means that both songs are judged equally deserving of airtime.
Yes. And usually when albums and cassettes and stuff have an A and a B, it's like a single. And they'll have like a song on the A side, and that's the song that they're releasing. And then the B side is usually just something that they put on there that they like, but it's not something they're going to release independently.
It's not commercially viable to pull in notice for the record or album.
And so a double A side means that both songs were released with the same hype and expectations.
Right. And much like The Cure, they have, The Beach, which is, I think it's The Beach. Is it called The Beach? B-sides.
Okay.
I think we just called it The Beach, but it's the B-sides. And that was a great album.
My other favorite is Anthrax, Attack of the Killer Bees. All B-side songs.
Yeah, so it's like there's always a B theme to it for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But on this, it's double A-side. It was a single, 45 RMP record. Sorry. I'm not used to talking about records.
Album. It was a vinyl.
Yeah, it was a vinyl record. And I played this constantly because it was one of the first records I ever got. And in doing so, I got to know these songs way too well. And maybe for a child, I didn't understand the themes that they brought up. And while Day Tripper, for me, worked out in several different ways, because as I aged, it had different meanings for me because I was taking it literally. I took it in many different ways. And of course, the first way I always go is literally. And as a child, I didn't understand what Day Tripper necessarily was. For me, it was a girl who was going back and forth to work from just outside of London. That's, to me, what Day Tripper meant.
One way to...
Later, I find out Day Tripper kind of means to be a trip in for vacation or for a day's vacation. What Day Tripper actually means has a couple of different meanings, but it's essentially about drugs. So doesn't mean that's necessarily why it was written. It's just what it's come to mean, I guess.
I get that.
So, but my focus was on We Can Work It Out. And there's a
Yes.
reason why. Because this song made me so indignant. And when you talk about like the feelings that you had when you watched a movie, with music, I can only ever really talk about the feelings I have because I don't really notice the lyrics near as much as I probably should.
Mm-hmm.
I miss a lot of it because I'm trying to listen to the entirety of the song and not just the lyrics. And I tend to hyper focus. And when I do that, I'm hyper focusing on the whole thing, which I know is weird, but it's like kind of like when you look at a painting or something and it's meant to, you're supposed to see the schooner,
Yes.
you know, the illusion of a schooner or something. You have to relax your eyes to do that. That's me listening to music.
Okay.
I have to listen to the entirety of it in order to listen to the whole song. So I'm hyper focusing oddly on being very general listening to the song. So I don't notice the lyrics or the melody as much because I'm doing that.
So would it help you to listen while reading the lyrics?
A lot of times it does, but I don't always have access to that.
Oh, yeah.
Especially didn't have it back then when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So We Can Work It Out made me feel indignant as hell because one of the things you can hear very clearly are the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
It comes down to, and I always thought this was a man trying to explain to a woman why she's losing an argument. Turns out that's exactly what it is, but it's two men explaining to a woman why she's losing an argument.
Well, I mean, if you even like looking at the very first verse. So try to see it my way. Do I have to keep on talking till I can't go on? While you see it your way, run the risk of knowing that our love may not go on. So what you're saying is until you admit that I'm right, you're going to fuck up our relationship.
That's exactly it. This entire song comes down to it's a gaslighting.
It is.
And if you look at it, because it's literal, this is based on Paul McCartney's argument or an argument that he had with a woman, Jane Asher, an actress.
Mm-hmm.
And it may not be anything specific, but this is them trying to get the point across that him and John Lennon both trying to say in the writing of this song that we don't have that kind of time on the planet.
So just get over it, man.
For you to disagree with me. I'm right and you're wrong. And let's just do it that way because that'll make everything go faster for me.
I mean, literally.
And
only time will tell if I'm right or I'm wrong.
Right.
Well, no, dude. You're not.
As a child, I caught this.
Yeah.
As an autistic child, I caught this. And it used to... I was apoplectic as a child when I heard this because I saw it for the gaslight that it is. Now, perhaps this has other meanings to other people.
I mean, maybe. And maybe it is about trying to work it out. No, to me, now, like, okay. I had not seen it that way. My notes for this song, when I listened to it again, now I've heard this song millions of times. And, you know, it's a Beatles song. It's catchy and you sing along with it. But to listen to the words, I wrote down, trying to work out relationships, hopeful that may not work. Literally, that may not work. Because, yes, it sounds like if you take the music itself, da-da-da-da-da, it's got that, it's a very...
Oh, I love the melody. I like the flow of the lyrics.
It gives you a hopeful feeling.
Right.
And normally I love a song that has an odd dichotomy where you're hearing one thing, but but the words tell you something else. And I love a song like that. But this now, like actually thinking about it, because I'd never really put the thought into this song like that, I'm getting angry because he is gaslighting. Because again, when you look at the lyrics, it's, you try to see it my way. And then he says, only time will tell if I'm right or I'm wrong. When you see it your way, there's a chance that we may not, that we may fall apart before too long. So I might be right, I might be wrong. But if we see it only your way, there's
We're
a good chance
definitely
we're going to
wrong.
fuck up this.
Yeah,
You know, it's like, yeah, but what if she's really fucking right, man, and you're just being a dick?
even if she's wrong,
Who the fuck are you, man?
why are you making that judgment for both
And you know
of
what?
you?
If she is wrong, but she's insisting, then maybe this is not the relationship you need to be
Maybe it should
in.
fail.
Yeah.
And
If you had to write a song about it from only a male perspective, you may not need to be in this relationship.
So-
Do you think Linda put up with this shit? I don't think Linda put up with this
I
shit.
don't know if she did or not, but he may have matured
Yeah,
by
that's
that
true.
time. So, as far as I'm aware, McCartney is the one that wrote the lyrics, and the refrain was written by John Lennon.
Yes.
Oh, you
Yeah, I did know
concur?
that, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I'm right. I
think
was making a guess here.
I believe so. I mean, I believe so because, again, I think you told me this earlier that they both kind of agreed to write both their names as writing credits, regardless of who actually wrote the song.
Well, I know that McCartney wrote Ebony and Michael Jackson wrote Ivory. No, I don't know that. Although that is a song I like.
And it wasn't Michael Jackson with Ebony and Ivory.
I know. I'm just making it. Was who was it? No, that was Michael Jackson.
No.
Who was it?
They did Say, Say, Say. So Ebony and Ivory was Stevie Wonder.
Okay.
Yeah, Say, Say, Say was Michael Jackson.
I think I conflated the two.
I think so.
Although Say, Say, Say is a good one too.
I do like that song. Say,
I like that video.
Say. Oh, I love the video. Cute. Weirdly, though, I believe it's one of the Jackson sisters in that video that's supposed to be Michael's love interest.
That makes it very weird.
I could be wrong, y'all.
I thought it was
LaToya.
because they're having fun. And
it
just
is fun, and I mean, there's no actual like
touching or anything.
I could be wrong. I'm remembering something.
Okay, we're getting off.
Yeah, I'm sorry, y'all.
Well, we can talk about that later. Maybe we can do a video series.
Ooh.
Favorite videos.
Pop-up video. We're going to get sued.
Not a sponsor.
Nope.
So, We Can Work It Out has always made me feel very icky and like the man was trying to gaslight her.
Oh, yeah.
And it's exactly what it sounded like.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's not.
Doesn't mean I don't like singing to it. It is catchy.
Oh, it is.
I like the tune. As with many Beatles things, I like the tune more than I like the lyrics itself.
Mm-hmm.
And this one I don't think it can get by too many people. I'm not sure if the internet has mentioned anything about this. It is fairly old. It's from 65. 1965, I should preface that, not 1865.
For those of us born with a 19 before our year.
Right. But the record itself was more important to me than the songs because it was my mom loved the Beatles. Mm-hmm. She loved the Beatles. And my mom was everything to me when I was a kid, as most moms are. But she was the one that was there all the time. She was working, she was at home mom, and she was there with us all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And she always promoted a love for music, which is why she bought us the record players. I appreciate it at the time. Don't know that my brothers did, but they seemed to appreciate it. At least Paul chewed on it less than he chewed on other things. But I think that it's important to foster those things in your kids. And she did that with us. And that has always been like my prized possession, which I don't have now because it disappeared while I was in the military.
Mm-hmm.
But I always loved that. And I still can picture the sleeve and the centerpiece.
Mm-hmm.
I can picture everything about it, and I remember it fondly as my favorite record.
I get that. My mom shared her records with me as a kid, and I have a lot of... It's actually funny how out of the 3 songs I picked, not one of them is either Casey and the Sunshine Band, which you would think, knowing my mom, and or Pink Floyd, knowing my mom, or anything from the soundtrack Hair. Because again,
yeah, right? Weird.
Those were the 3 things I grew up listening to with my mother alone. I mean, my mom listened to a lot of doo-wop as well, but yeah, I've been exposed to a ton of music all across my life. So my tastes are very vast and
you have a special interest in music, whereas I have more of an academic.
I don't know if it's a special interest.
I mean, not academic. I just have a clinical view because I don't process music the same way. I like stuff. I don't like stuff. But again, I have to it's like phasing my brain out to hear the whole song, or I hyper focus on one part.
I think because of the way you look at music, you have an impression on how I do it. And I don't necessarily think how I feel about music is any different from anybody else, but maybe that's just maybe me. I don't necessarily feel like I have a special interest in it. Music has been what has kept me sane in a lot of my life.
Yeah, but you do have an interest in it, and the way that I can tell that you do is because you have a vast knowledge of a lot of different types of music that people do not have.
It's when I have my hyper focuses.
But they do not have these offhand. You know a lot about a lot of stuff, a lot of subjects in music that laymen do not have.
True, I guess so. I mean, and then knowing people who have specific focuses on different bands and talking with them and learning about things through their eyes is actually helped.
But you learn those things because you have an interest in them.
I guess
I would never think to ask those.
Yeah. Again, sometimes it wasn't asked, it was thrown at you and you had to take it.
But I think that you're trying to downplay it.
No, I'm not really. I just don't want people to think that I'm like a complete audiophile, and I'm not, because I don't know everything about everything.
I think an audiophile is different.
Yeah,
an audiophile would be concerned about the structure of the music and how it reflects off of walls and everything else.
Well, I think also people who are obsessed with music, I think they have I have a pretty broad things I like, but I think that they have an even broader stroke.
I think a lot of times they have specific ones. Some people only focus on certain types of rock.
That's true.
I think what sets an audiophile apart, and I could be wrong, is in that they care about how it's displayed.
I guess.
So it would be the best equipment, or the most advanced equipment, or maybe the most antiquated equipment, because they want the purity of that sound. So you wouldn't catch someone who loved LPs, loved albums,
on stuff onto
playing anything other than on vinyl.
Yeah. And me, I'll just listen to it however I can get it.
Right. So what's your first song?
So my first song is actually...
Oh, and by the way, just going to put this out here. We are going to provide YouTube links.
Yes.
So that you can listen to these songs as we're talking about them, probably a little bit more briefly talking about than you would like, because I can't expound on everything. But you can listen to these things along with us as we're talking about them.
Yeah, this may not be as long of an episode as we've had in the past, because honestly, even I'm not too sure how we're going to expound on a lot of these.
I think an hour and 30 minutes is a bit long for even movies, but we still do it because we're verbose.
We are verbose. So my first song that as a personal thematic song is No Roots by Alice Merton. Merton, sorry, I tend to drop my T's. And it's funny how I like this song. I know there's a controversy behind this song, so let me give you a little bit of background information. No Roots was on her Mint album, and it was released in 2016 in Europe and 2018 in the US. At first, it was one of those songs that a lot of radio stations that play alt music, they kind of slept on it because they didn't think it was that special. But then the public started to really request it. It's kind of boppy, but it's not really
like a sleeper hit.
It really is, because unless you're listening to the words, you're just going to be like, oh, it's just one of those songs. But it's the words that really got me. So she co-wrote this with Nicholas Rebsher, and it was released through Paper Planes in Europe and Mom and Pop Music in the US. Now, there is a controversy with this song before I even get into it. And we're not really going to get deep into this because I'm not here to offend anyone. She refers to gypsies, and the term no roots has also been seen as a negative connotation to the Roma traveler community. I don't see any negative connotations.
But we're not Roma. I'm
not a traveler. Again, not here to upset anybody. I know the negative connotation with the word gypsy. Just know that in my heart, I don't see it as a bad word. I know it's been used as a slur, but I grew up where that was a beautiful fantasy life, to be that free, to be that away from everything.
I think the traveler part,
Yeah.
you see it as something that is a freeing thing, because it's kind of like learning to fly. I know everybody hates that one.
I don't hate it. It's just
To
Gilmore.
me, who didn't listen to a lot of Floyd and stuff, learning to fly. So you get that sense of freedom.
Yeah.
And I don't want to go into that because it's not one of my songs.
And we tend to always go back to Pink Floyd because Pink Floyd.
That's one thing we have, like a shared. I don't have as much interest, but I have a shared experience with you on that.
Yeah.
So I get that about the Roma, the Travelers, whatever the reality might be. It conjures up a fantasy of traveling freely through Europe.
Yes.
And not being beholden to any one kingdom.
And I don't see it as a negative. And I know, again, I am not part of that community. So seeing the word gypsy as a negativity, I understand why they would.
We're not here to judge the song. We are not wanting to offend anyone, but I think it's important to discuss the song's own merits.
Yes, and I just wanted to acknowledge that there is a controversy that I did not know until I started doing my research. Because again, I would not have really chose the song if I had known it was going to have such a dark background. Though I don't think that was Alice's intentions in any form.
Though we can't speak,
but I can't speak for her. I cannot speak for her. But so this song, No Roots, to me is about not having. So if you listen to our Moonstruck episode, yes, I talk about having a big, large family and how I grew up in this big, large family. But we moved a lot. My mom moved us around a lot. I went to way too many elementary schools before we moved to a place that we, stayed for a very long time. And as an adult, I've moved less, but I've still moved around a lot. And coming from the family I have, which is divided in many ways, it is half of them don't speak to the other half for whatever reason. I have no siblings who share both parents. I'm not close with any of my siblings. I always felt like the outsider looking in on my family, as much as it really after my grandfather passed away, and I was 11. So think about, I've been feeling this way for a really friggin' long time.
So you felt displaced.
Just very displaced. And so when I heard this song and I actually listened to the lyrics, I like digging holes and hiding things inside them. And when I grow old, I hope I won't forget to find them, because I've got memories and travel like gypsies in the night. So we moved. And I can tell you, there were times where we would pick up and leave and not let the landlords know, and we were gone, So that was a thing. And I get that just leaving in the night and traveling.
That sounds like a very hard thing for children.
It was interesting. And I didn't know until I was an adult, because I didn't understand the reality of it. But I was homeless as a kid, and I didn't know that. Like, it didn't dawn on me that we were homeless.
Right.
And it wasn't for a very long time, but it was enough that as an adult, looking back, I'm like, okay, we lived in a camper in a campground. It was literally meant for summer. Right. And we were there. And then we lived in a motel. And it was I don't remember the full name of the motel, but it had moon in the title. I don't remember if it was the full moon or half moon or something like that. Isn't that funny how moon is always...
That's funny.
But it was
funny. It's just,
But it was the butterfly campground.
Okay.
So,
that's important too, because that's a transitional...
It is. Yeah. It is very transitional. But yeah, for me, this song it resonated with a childhood. And I only heard this song not too long ago, because again, it came out in 2018. I only heard it maybe about a year ago. It's painful almost, but also like it's and I can't think of the word.
Does it feel almost nostalgic?
It feels empowering.
Okay.
Like taking that background, but that's okay. So again, I build a home and wait for someone to tear it down, then pack it up in boxes and head for the next town. It's that same feeling of just this empowerment. Like, okay, I know it's going to fall apart. I'd like standing still, but that's a wishful plan. Ask me where I come from and I'll say a different land. Because I don't, it's that, again, it goes along with that not knowing where you come from, but also knowing you are probably going to be leaving anyway. I think this is the longest I've ever lived in one area. And we have lived in our home. We just figured it out the other day that we lived here for almost 10 years.
Crazy.
This is the longest I have ever lived in one home in my whole entire life.
I'm not going to bum you out by saying same.
No.
I didn't travel near as much as you through different homes and different venues.
Mm-hmm.
But even for me, this is the longest I've stayed in one place.
Yeah.
Mainly because we were military. We're always in a different place. But I always had roots.
You had a town home, like a home that you can go back to. It was your grandparents' house.
Sure. Do I want to go back there? No.
No, but I mean, you had that as a kid.
It was an option. It was a thing that we had.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make some plant analogies because that's how I work and it says no roots. But while we moved from place to place in my early childhood, later on in my childhood, we did have a hometown that we ended up moving back to, my parents' hometown that we moved back to. And I've had roots my entire life. I didn't feel like I did, but looking back, I can know that I did always have roots. So I kind of felt we moved around a lot, but we always had a hometown to come back to.
Yeah.
Because we had our grandparents there, or my grandparents. But I've always felt, I don't know, insulated or isolated. I always felt isolated from the rest of my family because even my parents and my siblings, because I was different from them. I didn't have the same interests they did. I didn't feel the same as they did. I never knew what that was and everything else. And like, I felt like I was the pink flower in a group of ferns. That's a weird feeling to have because I always pictured my family as ferns.
Okay.
And I always felt like this flower sticking out of it. Not better than, different and like really noticeably different. So I always tried to blend in better, but I never quite managed it. So like when I came out, I stopped being a flower, if that makes sense. Okay. I became a walking palm.
Okay.
See, a walking palm, they lose their roots in order to move. This is the tree that walks.
Yeah.
And it does that by letting go of old roots and growing new ones. And when I look at my life, listening to the song, this is what I wrote. I stayed up this morning because I can only I have to really focus on music to get specifics out of it.
Yeah.
And I wrote this down at 3 a.m, listening to the song on loop.
Yeah.
And I put down new roots and I released the old roots. That's me coming out.
Yeah.
And that's how I move forward.
Yeah.
And this song really made that a part of reality for me. I felt moved by the music to write that.
Okay.
And it reminds me that roots are something, it's fine to miss those roots. But you also have those roots that you're going to grow. Like you were talking about not having roots as a child or not having roots with your family. But we build new ones. We grow new roots and we find our homes.
I think that's part of why I am always so interested in my family's background. saying again, I'll refer back to the last time, last episode with Moonstruck. I know that, my family part of it comes from Lowell, Massachusetts. And I know that my grandfather's family was Irish and Italian, and where they come from in Italy. But my grandmother's side, now I know very little about my grandfather's side of the family. That's pretty much the be all end all. I think there were some barbers involved. There might have been some mob
Sevilles?
ties. Yeah, there might have actually been some mob ties. I don't know enough. I know hearsay and half remembered stories from what my great grandmother used to tell me.
And if we know anything about Italians, they all have mob ties because that seems to be a thing that they like to say.
I know. I know that my grandfather's great nephew, something or other, was some type of a coach for the Dallas Cowboys. That's all I know. Okay. So, but my Nana, I know a lot about her family. But what I know about her family is that they were carnival people and they traveled with carnivals. So my, as much as I feel like I don't have roots, I feel like my heart is more into the life that she led than it would be to have that family dynamic of having, as much as I love the idea of having a house for my children and my grandchildren to come back to, my heart, because I don't want to travel. I don't want to be that. Nah, I'm lazy. But my heart is with the life that my grandmother led, and going and traveling across the eastern, from Mississippi to the Atlantic Ocean, and traveling with carnivals and learning about all the things she taught me about carnival life and the games and the shows and the things that she got to do and experience. The song makes me think of her as well. And while she had a home when at the end of her life for many, many decades, her heart was always that traveler. She was always that person with the carnival, because to see her face and her eyes light up when she would tell those stories, you knew in some part of her that she wished she'd never left. But I think it was my great grandmother wanting to have a settled down life for her, and my great aunt that they did. So yes, the song definitely has a lot of depth and feelings for me.
Okay. I think that's important, though. I think it's good to know where you come from, but it's good to know where you're going. And sometimes to know the path forward, you really have to learn from the past.
Definitely.
And learning from your grandmother is important.
Yeah, that crazy, cranky woman, I loved her to pieces. And she was a crank.
So my next one is probably well known to most people. Came out in 2005. It is I Will Follow You Into the Dark, Death Cab for Cutie. This is going to be sappy. It is the way the song is. And I am a sap. I love my wife. I love my family. And I Will Follow You Into the Dark is kind of something that always epitomizes how I feel about our relationship. So the lead singer and the guitarist, Ben Gibbard, said, it's just this idea that what if somebody dies and we're just floating, just stumbling around in infinite darkness, and I'm just trying to find some kind of spiritual kind of peace with myself and the world. And I partially agree with that. Of course, it's his song. He defines it. But to me, it speaks to me, and what I've always felt is this is like a flowing river. That life and death are all that same river. And it's all flowing. You're just transitioning from one part of the river to another part. And I think when you're near the shore, the river seems different than when you get out into the center of it. And the center, I think, is a lot more like death than the shore. The shore, you have a relative safety, a feeling of light and safety because you can see the bottom and you can stand on the shore. But when you're in the middle of the river as it flows, you're at its mercy. and there's a lot more uncertainty to be had.
Okay.
This song makes me think about the currents within that river. And I think about the moment that I feel like I belong to everyone else,
Mm-hmm.
because I always feel like the odd one out is at the end of all things. Because it's the one thing we do as human beings is we all die.
True.
There's no way around it. We're not immortal. We are mortal. That is our defining characteristic of human beings is mortality.
Mm-hmm.
How we deal with that mortality is the difference between every individual. But when I think of you going, I know that I want to be there too.
Mm-hmm. No, because you've told me this before that you.
I know, and
Yeah.
I don't want to cry. But, I will take that journey too.
Okay.
Because I have no desire to not be in the river with you.
This song is it's on so many levels. It's just such a pretty and sad.
Oh, it's beautiful.
I love the chorus. And what's weird is I often don't like choruses in songs because it's for the repetitive, refrain. But I love the
Something
part.
I enjoy.
It's the if heaven and hell decide that they both are satisfied, illuminate the nose on their vacancy signs. That I don't know why. It's the painting the portrait that paints. I picture it. That's the thing, and they're done. There's nothing else.
It's a visceral feeling that, and what I see is this man saying, "This is the time."
Yeah.
And I've got no reason left to keep my spot open.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm fine with it. This is what I decided on. This is what I want to do.
And what he's saying too is that regardless of where you go, if heaven and hell are booked and there's nothing else, and we're just floating in limbo, well, then I guess I float with you.
Right. We'll just travel. We'll just move.
Oh yeah.
And it's okay. It's gonna be okay.
And not to try to ruin the mood or anything. But I am a supernatural nerd.
Yes, you are.
And all I can think of is Dean driving down the road and all of the the vacancy signs are all turning no, and the whole fight with heaven and hell. So I could totally see this as being a fandom song. So, and I just take that, and I took that way too literal, but I do like the song. My feelings towards this song are definitely it's just romantic, and it's sweet, and it's I love you so much that I will follow you regardless of where you're going, and yeah, it's definitely a happy feels song. Even though it's a sad song, it gives you good feelings.
I think it's sad. Sure, there's a sadness there, but I think it's more of a sentimental.
It's hopeful. I mean, that's what I wrote. I wrote sad soulmates finding love in darkness. So regardless, if you're lost in the darkness, I'm going to follow you and find you. So it's not even just about death, even though he is saying, I'm going to follow you into the dark, meaning, I'm going to follow you in the afterlife. But it's also to me that finding you in the darkness, regardless of where that darkness is.
So there's a river that we used to go to when I was a kid called Current River. Not the name of the river itself, but they call it colloquially the Current River in Arkansas. And one of the things that you do when you float down the river on inner tubes, canoe, or whatever, mostly on inner tubes, is when you get out into the river, you all kind of connect up. Mm-hmm. You all kind of hold on to each other's inner tubes or whatever it is, your floaties or whatever.
Yeah.
And you go down together.
Yeah.
And that's the way I see it. When you go out into the river, you may go into it alone. But you don't stay alone.
Yeah.
The people that love you, the things that love you, they're going to be there to hold on to you when you go into the dark. So when you get into the center of the river, that current isn't yours alone to tread. That you will be there with the people that love you the most.
Yes. I agree. No, that sounds right. And I just like, yeah, I like the idea of that.
And it may be a comfort thing is why we do that, but I
Hey.
truly feel that way. I mean, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in heaven and hell or a God afterlife of any kind, but I'd like to be wrong. It's okay to want to be wrong about things like that. I think you
Oh,
should.
yeah.
I think there's nothing when you end, but I'd like to be wrong. I really would.
Yeah. No, who doesn't want to be wrong about that? Um, so my next song is stupid for me. I think I, it's a joke that went too far. It's a joke that went too far. So again, we've pointed this out before. I'm old, and early 2000s, I was part of the Live Journal universe, and the group I was with, we all had theme songs, and one of my favorite Live Journal writers used the Rag and Bone Man, which I had used prior, but then I was like, I'm not doing this song justice. So, and it's not like I related to the song Rag and Bone Man by Radiohead. I just really like the song. But it was Mystery Girl by the Yeah Yeah Yeahs. That was my song. And before that, we'd all heard Maps. Maps is awesome. I love that song. But this was like the second Yeah 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 song I'd ever heard. And I don't know why. It struck me. But I can tell you, and for stupid reasons, why it struck me. So I had just gone through, I was literally like months outside of a separation, of a 9-year relationship. Plus. 9-year, yeah, plus. And I was by myself raising 3 children. And I was highly depressed. And that is why the interwebs world came into play. And I got involved with a lot of online gaming and online RPGs and certain fictional books about wizarding children who shall now remain nameless due to reasons of my own. And I just became, it's what got me through it. And this song popped up. And so let me do my background really quick. So this was 2003 when it was released. I don't have a lot of information about this song, unfortunately. But the album that it was on is actually called the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, not Master, which has often been it's because on the woman on the cover wears a necklace that says Master, so a lot of people think that's
misattributed.
Yes. So and the Yeah Yeah Yeahs released this off of their own label called Shifty in 2001. But the song was released as a single, I guess, at 2003. And all I wrote was Lost. That's all I wrote was Lost. Because I was lost. I was in a mentally low place. And learning this song, I think it was just, again, empowering. So it was a struggle of the century, and all the grown men came to see the girl who tamed the tiger, the heart of the southern lovebirds. They found her under the sea. She said she came from cell block 3. It's stupid. But okay, so I was born the year of the tiger. I relate to tigers. So she tamed the tiger. And then, it's just about how amazing this girl is, but also how weird she is. And I related to that. I wanted to be the amazing girl, but I knew I was more of the weird girl. So like, the girl hit hot like a barracuda baby. She floated on air like a crest of a wave. She was a primal institution. She was a danger to herself. It's again, I can't even explain to you why the song to this day still resonates with me, other than it just makes me happy. The song makes me happy. It's not a great song. It's an even weirder, especially knowing, that I am 50 years old, and I still look at this song and go, I want to be the cool, empowering girl who does all the weird stuff. But I still kind of in the back of my head think that this is my theme song.
Well, it's kind of like Tank Girl.
Yeah, Tank Girl.
You can be weird and everything else, but there's a sense of empowerment in being the weird one, the one that everybody's going, holy crap, that's Tank Girl. You know?
And I guess you can picture Tank Girl, this song being about
I
somebody like
picture,
her.
like when I listen to this song, and it is not a song I've heard a lot. I think I've heard it once before.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where or when.
And it's probably because I played it in the background of something,
Maybe. And I listened to it on loop this morning again.
I like the drums in it.
Here are my notes, based on just me hearing it and knowing nothing about the backstory you have or anything else.
Mm-hmm.
That it sounds like a femme fatale type of song that signals to me a mechanism to hide insecurity.
Oh, hell yeah.
Perhaps the opposite of what it's trying to portray.
Possible.
I have trouble discerning the intentions of humans, which is true, or the emotions they present and the subtext it may signify. I personally don't find mysterious people alluring like I think a lot of people do.
Mm-hmm.
Rooms are filled with people who choose to be closed off, and that is mysterious, and I don't care for it. Having said that, I can fully understand why cis and trans women would want to hold on to what power they have close to the chest. If you're powerless societally,
Mm-hmm.
you want to have personal power of some kind. And I can see why Mystery Girl would be appealing in that display of power.
So I get what you're saying, and you're right that in a lot of cases, especially like with powerful women, they tend to be aloof and very silent, and just the stoicness of them. But I don't think that's the character in this song. I think the character in this song is a complete wackadoo, and that's what makes her a mystery, is she's powerful in the sense that she doesn't have any fucks to give. And also the girl singing about her.
Just what I got out of it, not necessarily what is.
Well, the last verse before the final Mystery Girl bit is where you hear the singer singing about her. So she's like, not a day goes by, I want to disappear into her eyes, a mother of pearl, and my head feels dead with all this useless fighting, but my heart ain't dead because it keeps on loving. Like, she is obsessed with her. Like, she wants to go. Like, not a day goes by that I don't think of her eyes, that I don't want to be a part of whatever that was.
Right.
So where, again, in the normal, and I would normally go, yes, those mysterious women are usually very aloof and stoic, but in this situation, I don't think she is. I think she just doesn't have a fuck to give, and does.
I'm not saying that they're aloof and stoic.
No, I'm just saying that you tend to see that with these women who are mysterious, because that's why they're mysterious, is they're quiet and they're holding themselves back because they're holding on to that power.
Yeah.
But I think in this case, she's mysterious because she's so all over the place that people look at her and they're like, I don't get it. And I kind of like that. I enjoy confusing people. I really do. So every day I confuse people. I currently have purple hair. I have toys in my classroom that my students are not allowed to touch because they are my toys. I play games. I act like a child. My coworkers know me as being immature and childlike and complaining about everything. But when I open my mouth to talk about stuff that relates to my students and their IEPs and what is important to them and my general education, my master's degree, all of that information comes pouring out of my mouth. I know it confuses them because they never expect it. And I enjoy that. I like to be
the Spanish Inquisition?
Yes, I love to be underestimated when it comes to stuff like that. Now, I don't appreciate it from certain angles. While I seem to not have a problem with a female coworker feeling like that, if it's a male coworker, I get very don't look at me lowly. Don't look at me like, I'm less than I am, because you have no idea.
Yeah.
But yet I don't hold back my weird and my chaotic and the things I wear to work. I don't dress for the other teachers. I dress for the student. Half the time I don't even dress for the students. I dress for me. But, it's still fun. And I like what I do because I get to be the mystery girl. I get to be that. And even on a tame level, I still get to be this mystery girl. And I like that. So I think that's part of why that song still resonates with me.
After it looped like about 20 times while I was writing my thoughts down, the thing that came up at the end is that this is one of those songs that sounds edgy, but it's really a magician's trick. That it's Schrodinger's top hat. The bunny is in two states until you observe it. That's what I got out of this. Is that the mystery girl might be a mystery, but there's two states involved in this. That the insecurity that creates the mystery girl may well just be the insecurity of the girl itself.
And honestly, the girl who's in that last verse.
But I could be projecting my own feelings into this.
Well, the girl in the last verse might be looking at, maybe I want to go back to being that mystery girl. Maybe she is the mystery girl.
Could be.
Because again, there is not much that I could find about this song.
I think it's left to interpretation, as most things are. So
who is Maps?
Yeah, exactly.
But they don't love you like I love you. Okay, so what is your...
My third one is a bit of a departure from the other two. It is 2004. It's Gavin DeGraw, who I couldn't tell you anything else he does.
Me either. I looked.
But the song is I Don't Want to Be.
I
don't want to be. Honestly, this song to me, it was not something I was going to pick. And I had trouble even finding it because I couldn't remember what song it was that I wanted to pick up, why I wanted to pick this song. I just knew that when I heard it, it was kind of my anthem for coming out as a trans woman. It's unintended, but the more I looked into it, the more I realized that it is an unintended pride song.
No, I agree.
Because I don't want to be anything other than who I'm trying to be lately.
And who I'm supposed to be.
So, for
Not
me, it's a trans anthem. Not necessarily a pride anthem, but for me, it always hit me. The refrain is what hits me. The refrain is what pulls me in and love this song for no real reason other than it speaks to me personally about coming out, about who I am.
Yes.
I didn't choose to be trans, but what I did choose to be was me. I chose to come out. I chose to be me over the mask that I had to wear for most of my life because I came out at 48 years old. For 48 years, I had to wear a mask. So this song speaks to me in a way I can't even really define, and it's nothing the writer intended. It's nothing Gavin DeGraw ever intended. Though I hear he is an LGBTQ ally. He has played at events, not Pride events, but he's played at concerts benefiting Pride. I don't know much else about him.
So, were you able to find out what his intention was with the song?
Yes. His intention, as it was written, was more for young people in their identity crisis. We're not talking about gender identity.
No, but just
because in 2004 it was about a crisis of identity in general. It's much like, latchkey kids of Gen X.
Yeah.
We have latchkey kids.
Oh, yeah.
In 2004, and they were trying to figure out where they fit in. And honestly, I'm surprised they've done so well. We didn't help them much.
No.
But it speaks to me personally, unintentionally. I think when you choose something for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
that's a power.
Yeah.
And you're taking that power unto yourself. I was sad my entire life. I still get sad, but I'm not sad about me.
Yeah.
I'm
I
sad about
see that.
external things.
I kind of I see that as well. Because even now I'm in a position where I'm not sad about me. And I haven't been sad about me in a really, really long time. So yeah, no, I get that. I like the lyrics. I don't have to be anything other than the birth of two souls in one. Part of where I'm going is knowing where I'm coming from. And that I resonate with that too, because that kind of goes back to the no roots thing. It's really, I just like to know where I'm from, but that doesn't determine where I'm going. And I don't have to be what's expected of me. That's how I see it. And well, it's not the same expectations as what is placed on you. But I was expected to be a stay-at-home mom. I was expected to not go to college and to just accept the generational poverty and cycle and not try to be a better person. No one ever said this to me. It was just unspoken. You're to accept this.
You were expected to go to college, but for no one to ask you what you're going to college for.
But even then, no one really expected me to go to college at all.
I was playing back to
yeah.
our very first episode in which
oh, yes.
cis women are given no agency.
Yes. Well,
including the education they get.
Yeah.
And I think that you're right that it speaks to a lot of people individually because you're choosing to be you instead of the expectations of everyone around you.
Yeah, and when you are expected to follow in a set of footsteps that don't fit you, and when you try to walk away from that set of footprints and you walk your own set of footprints, or you walk away and you try to make yourself into the person that you think is a better person based on what they did teach you, and yet you're still ostracized for having those independent thoughts. And how dare you have those independent thoughts? Those independent thoughts go against everything that you have been taught. Well, yeah, but that's now because I know that what I was taught was wrong. Because I had a feeling it was wrong, but I needed the proof it was wrong. So yeah, you don't have to be what everyone expects you to be. You're allowed to go out there and learn and be a better person or not. It's you. You have that choice.
Yeah, who the hell are they to have those expectations?
Exactly.
Because something has been done isn't a good reason to do something.
Exactly. Well,
I mean, that's a reason they give for slavery.
I hate my least favorite statement is, well, we've always done it this way.
Right.
Yeah.
It's only been that way because people fell in line with expectations without thinking, what if we do it my way?
And I use this quote. I've been using this quote for years, but now I have a place to really bring it to is I have always, in some way, shape, or form, paraphrased Leslie Knope in Parks and Rec when she talks about how when I was little, I believed chocolate milk came from chocolate cows, but then I grew up and I learned differently.
Cows, yeah.
Yeah, from brown cows. And then I grew up and I learned differently. And actually, I'd used that line before I'd ever heard Leslie Knope say it, but I love that she does say it. And it's always been a fact for me. Yes, you only know what you know, but when you learn differently, it should change your perspective.
It should. That's something that's in Firefly.
Mm-hmm.
So it is that same sentiment. When you find out information, when you have information, it should change how you think about things and what you do with that information.
Yep.
And I never had the words. For years, I never had the words. And then when I had the words, I was afraid to use them because the weapons that were used against us was misinformation.
Mm-hmm.
I was afraid to say anything because every time a trans woman came out, she was shot down in life in some way,
Yeah.
sometimes literally. And to know that that is not always the case, that there are people out there that are different.
And that it's okay. That you're different, they're different, everyone is different. It's okay.
Yeah, and we are all different. We don't have to be the same. We only have to be what we want to be. And you can choose to be yourself. You can choose to be someone else if you want.
Hey, you can be an ignorant piece of shit.
Yes.
But you chose it.
But you can choose to be different.
Mm-hmm.
You can stop being that ignorant piece of crap. You can stop being a racist. You can stop these things. You do not have to keep following on the same path you've been going. You can always step off the path and go a different direction, because your only expectation in life should be for you to do what is right for you.
Mm-hmm.
You do not have to follow everybody else's lead.
Exactly.
And I'm not trying to subvert expectations. I'm trying to be me.
Yeah.
And if that subverts an expectation,
That's
that
a you
is
problem.
the observer's problem.
Not a me problem.
Right. And that's why this is an unintended anthem.
Yeah, because
That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
No, I get it, though. I really do.
And Gavin DeGraw don't really know what his views are on trans people or anything else, but I have to say, he should look into performing at Pride events.
He really...
Because I think he would find a large audience there.
Oh, probably, definitely.
But I love his refrain, and I love that during the refrain, he accents that towards the end,
Mm-hmm.
where he brings that, I don't want to be,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't sing, but it moves me, because when he brings it up like that, he's yelling, I'm yelling at myself.
Yeah. That you have the power to be who you want to be.
Yeah.
And nobody has the power to tell you what
I've been driving in my car, this plays, I cry.
Oh, no.
But not out of sadness at all. It's all about happiness.
Out of happiness.
And where I am.
Freedom.
And who I am. Yes.
Oh, could have done free.
Sorry, I went overly long on that one.
That's okay. So my third is another odd choice. But I don't necessarily feel like this is a personal theme. It could be, but this is my romantic one.
Personally thematic.
Personally
it can be,
thematic.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a theme for you. It can
no,
just
but
be
personally thematic
in some way.
So this song I have loved. Oh gosh, I don't even know the first time I heard it. I was very little. There was something about the tune. I just loved it. And it was just a song that I just remember being very little, like 5, and just listening and just dancing to this and singing along with it, not knowing what the holy heck the song was about. And the song is When I Need You by Leo Sayer. It was released in 1977. It was written by Albert Hammond and Carol Bayer Sager. It was produced by Richard Perry. I found something interesting out about this song.
Okay.
And it might be the reason why I relate to it. And it's going to be so silly, y'all, but I'll get to it in a second. So, if you don't know the song, it's a very slow song, very 70s, that kind of synthetic organ-y. The beginning part of it is very organ sounding.
Oh, yeah. Synthesizer.
Synthesizer, yeah. And, and it's just when I need you, I just close my eyes and I'm with you. And all that I so want to give you is only a heartbeat away. I don't think a small child got the depth of this song. But I kind of feel like I did. I kind of feel... Again, didn't really grow up with my dad. And I think I just related it to my grandfather, who I loved, as we have been told multiple times now. I loved my pop-pop. And He was literally, him and my Nana were my everything. Even
Right.
though I don't remember them living together at any point in my childhood, they were, one took care of me during the week and one took care of me during the weekends. And I loved them both. And my grandfather and I, our show, we watched. He had his shows and I had the Muppet Show.
Hee-haw.
No. Benny Hill. My grandfather loved Benny Hill and he loved Groucho Marx. So any Groucho Marx movies or Benny Hill, that was what I remember watching with him. And we might have watched other things. Oh, we watched Soap. Do you remember Soap?
Oh, I love
I
Soap.
loved Soap. He loved Soap too. And he liked not Jimmy Durante, Maurice Chevalier. That was his favorite singer.
Yeah.
But he liked the song Heart of Glass by Blondie because it sounded like carnival music.
I can see that.
So he was a funny, old-fashioned old man. But, and I still don't know what he would think of me to this day, but I'm kind of glad I never have to find out. But
Subverting people's expectations.
Exactly.
Sometimes just existing.
Yes. Well, again, he passed away when I was 11. I was a bit devastated. And again, there's a lot to that story, but him and I would watch the Muppet Show together. And apparently, Leo Sayer performed When I Need You on the Muppet Show in the second episode of the third season. I don't know if that has anything to do with why this song, I really should have looked up what year that was. But this song has always just, like even now I can hear it in my head and I am transported. I have this thing with music. Certain songs transport me immediately back in my head to where I was. And I picture myself in my mom's room in one of our New York apartments. I don't remember which one it was, but listening to this on the radio and getting mad because my Uncle Frank put on a Kiss song. And I got mad because I didn't want to hear Kiss. I wanted to hear this song because this is my... And I didn't even know who Leo Sayer was. I couldn't tell you what the name of the song was as a little kid. I just know I liked this song. And I'm immediately back into that moment, just getting so upset at my uncle for putting on a Kiss song. And then my mom putting the radio back over to the station so I got to hear the ending of the song. If you play Diana Ross, Upside Down, Upside Down. I am immediately walking through a parking lot at the age of 5 or 6 in H.L. Green's in New York City, leaving H.L. Green's, going to my mom's car, and I heard that playing and coming out of somebody's car window, and I'm there. So that this is one of those songs where it just immediately takes me to one of those places.
Right.
And I don't know. It's a beautiful love song. It's about being with somebody regardless of distance. And I think maybe that was, again, another thing I kind of related to, was no matter how far away from the person that you love, you just have to close your eyes and you're with them. A telephone can't take the empty place of your smile. So meaning you can picture them in your head. And then, I won't be traveling a lifetime. But just like, hold on, because I'm coming, I'll be there. And again, it's that I traveled a lot as a kid, and every weekend I was either in New York or in New Jersey for a big period of my life. And I think, and then again, not having my dad always around and not understanding fully why my dad wasn't there, I think that was a lot of it too. Again, I know this is about romantic love, but as a child, I didn't understand that. And I just related it to the love I knew.
Familial love. Yeah.
Now, as an adult, I can still listen to this song and get choked up about it. See, I will. This song, I can't pay attention to it. If I hear it on, I want to be like, oh yeah, that's my song. But then I have to, in my head, just go somewhere else because I can't pay attention to it because I will bawl. Because I do remember how I felt. I do remember being, just confused and lost. But to me, it also is a definite love song that to me, it strikes such deep emotions of just when you're not there, I still love you just as much. And I'm just, wait, can you still love me just as much? So yeah, I don't have a lot to say about it, but I think that's
okay.
I think that is definitely, but I do think it has to do with the Muppet Show. Because once I found that out, my brain went, oh my God, that's where I must have heard it.
It's possible. So I've always known it's a pretty and sad and lonely and hopeful song. And looking back on it now, I equate it to those pairs of bracelets or lamps that you touch. They're on social media. You touch it, and it'll tell the person at the other end with the identical bracelet or lamp that you're thinking about them. That's how I kind of equate the song.
Okay.
It still means something, and I think it is a very sweet song. I think it feels to me, it's always felt to me like it's an ode to like a long distance relationship. Like that quintessential we can make it work relationship, and they're actually going to make it work because they can envision this person before them, that they miss so much. And I know that it can also be about, and I kind of, when I was looking through the lyrics, I was listening to it this morning on a loop again, because that's how I do. I kept thinking about what is this song trying to say to me? Is it saying something more than just, romantic love? And I get how it can be familial love as well, which is great. I didn't equate it that way, but you summed it up pretty nicely.
I was 4 when it was on the Muppet Show. I just looked it up. It was 1978, so I was 4.
That's fine. I'm just saying, I didn't think of it that way, but it doesn't mean that's not how it can be taken.
Well, the fact that I have a song that means so much to me since I was 4, it just kind of blows my mind.
Yeah. But to me, it can also kind of be about a person who's died.
Okay.
That you still have that connection with because you can close your eyes and imagine everything about them.
I never thought of that.
So, like, I can do that with Joe.
Yes.
He was my best friend, and it's not a romantic love, it's a platonic love, but I can close my eyes and I can almost smell his aftershave.
Yeah.
Or I can feel him like sitting next to me like he used to do on the couch when we watched shows that we really enjoyed, like Aaron Sorkin shows and stuff. I can feel him around me, or I can hear his laugh.
Yes.
And I think that this song doesn't have to, I know the lyrics lend themselves towards romantic love, but I think you should take in, a person should take into account all of the things that a song can make you feel despite the lyrics.
Oh, definitely.
Lyrics are poetry. Poetry is subjective to the person who encounters it.
Yes.
And I think that this can be just as easily familial love, which I'm glad you brought up, or platonic love for a friend or even an animal. You can sense these things about them because you've memorized every bit of them.
Yeah. And you're right, and then again, that same lyric, a telephone can't take the place of your smile. So yeah, you could call somebody, but it's not going to, again, you can't really if they're gone, but you can hear their voice, but it's not going to take that place of what you remember in your head.
Right. And, aside from all the deep feelings of the song, it is a song that is fun to sing.
Oh, it really is.
It makes you feel loved just singing it.
The miles and miles of empty space. I love that part. That refrain is just so...
You can feel beautiful singing it, even if you don't sound beautiful singing it.
It's just a very pretty, calming song.
And it's unusual. It's an unusual pick that I did not expect you to pick.
Again,
and I was like, holy crap. I was like, is this the same? Is this the right artist that I'm thinking of? And I brought it up. I'm like, on Spotify, and I'm like, this is the song. This is the one I grew up with. Yeah, that makes
what's
sense.
funny is you mentioned, the death thing, and yet the one song I did not pick, which if you're going to go for personal thematic, is the song I was actually named after, and that it is a song about death, and that's Seasons in the Sun.
Right.
So I didn't even know. I'd never really listened to that song until I was about 18, I think, and it came on the radio. Like, I'd heard it, but I didn't pay attention to it. We all knew the chorus. We had joy, we had some, and I never really thought much about the song ever. Didn't know my name was even in the song. But then when we were moving.
Are you trying to introduce a fourth song into the
No. But I'm just saying, I didn't know. And sorry, we were just moving into our new house because we had moved yet again, and the song came on the radio, and it's in the background, but then I hear Michelle, and I caught my attention, and I'm like, Michelle. And I never knew my mother picked my name because of that song. I never knew that. Now, for years, people would play Michelle My Belle to me. I had a guy in high school who hated me because of My Michelle by Guns N' Roses. Because, go figure.
You had anything to do with that?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of songs with Michelle in it, so I never really thought too much about it until that. And I went into, my mom was actually putting together a bed in my sister's room, and I went in there, and I'm like, did you know my name was in Seasons in the Sun? She's like, yeah, I heard that like a couple months before I had you, and that's when I decided to name you Michelle if you were a girl. Because I was supposed to be Brenda. Nothing against Brendas. I'm just saying I'm not a Brenda.
No, you're a Michelle.
I'm a Michelle.
It'd be weird if you weren't.
Yeah, it'd be weird.
I would have been calling you by the wrong name for a really long time.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, so that was funny not funny, but like that you mentioned death and the fact that the song I actually am named after is a song about death.
I think that with all these songs, I know that they're personally thematic to us in some way.
But they did have a weird commonality to a certain degree.
They do, but I think that that every person has a commonality in these functions. We have death. Mm-hmm. We have love, that we hope for love. We hope for roots. We hope for these things. We hope for love, life, happiness. And we hope against death and not to go alone.
Yeah.
So they're personally thematic to us, but they're easily applied to anyone else living in the world or dead. Mm-hmm. Because we all have these hopes and dreams. And maybe they're not the song that you would pick. You should email us. Maybe tell us on Blue Sky. What songs are personally thematic to you? Because these are important. I think that the song's music is about poetry. Mm-hmm. And poetry is about life. It's about how you contextualize your emotions, your feelings, the things you encounter. That is why we write. That is why you write poetry when you're moved. That is why you write music when you're moved. These are things that mean something, and they should mean something. They should affect you. They should make you cry.
They should.
They should make you laugh. They should make you do both at the same time.
It's funny. Earlier I said I don't listen to every type of music. And I always used to say to people, whether you listen to, like, even if you don't like a genre of music, you should at least appreciate it. Like, I don't listen to certain things because of my own issues or my own reasons. I'm not going to get into that right now because, again, I don't want to upset anybody. It's just my own personal issues and reasons. But I appreciate the music for what it is. Even if it's not my cup of tea, I appreciate it. And I always tell people that, and this actually has gotten people kind of annoyed with me, but music is written by the youth. Every generation's music is written by youth. Now, yes, we have artists who are older and they still write music, blah, 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 blah. Popular music is the story of our time written by the youth in their perspective. If you really wanted everything from
soul to grunge.
I would say, like, I literally would use the examples of She Loves You, Yeah, to Smack My Bitch Up. Literally, it doesn't matter what the genre is. If you just take the time and listen to a chunk of music at the time so say you pick like the 80s and you just go chunk of music in the middle of the 80s and you pick artists, they're all going to be in their early 20s to late 20s, of them, a majority of them, not all, but a majority of them. And they're telling you the story. What is socially happening now? What is historically happening now? And it's not always about war. You're going to get the 60s, you're going to get more war. In the 90s, you're going to get more about AIDS and sex, because Let's Talk About Sex by Salt and Pepper came on earlier, and I said that was our anthem when we were out handing out condoms and teaching and trying to get people aware of the AIDS epidemic. There's songs that are telling you about what's going on socially in our country, in our world, in that moment.
Right.
So again, you may not agree with it, you may not like it, you may not enjoy it, you may not find it any type of pleasantry, but it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody. I would not say that the music that my children listen to is for me. They might listen to things I like, but I am not the audience. They're the audience. Yeah. Because they're the history. They're the ones who are living this. We're living it, but it's not the same as when you are in that youth.
Oh, I know. They're the ones coming up into it.
Exactly. So I always said that music is the history written by the youth of our time.
It's true.
And it's important to learn, and it helps you learn. Really, it does. Again, if you just want to know anything social about anything.
Look at the music?
Yeah. I think the next music episode we should talk about, it should be music about that reflects on society, because I've got a few good ones.
Like society in general?
In general.
Okay. We can discuss that.
And unfortunately, a lot of them are Roger Waters songs.
For you, not so much me. Not that I don't
know,
like
but
Roger
I have a good one that just came up into my head that I'm like, oh, that's perfect to describe society right now. And it's sad because he wrote it like 40 years ago, but yet, no, maybe 30 years ago, but still.
So these are the things that we found that were personally thematic. And we want to thank you for following along with us through our journey.
Am I rambling?
Through the music that touched us in some way, and hope that you can find some of this music that can touch you and move you. And we want you to join us again on the next music podcast, because I find these interesting.
I do, yeah.
Actually, I think we talked longer on this than we usually do. I did far more than I expected us to, because I have less to say about music.
I had less notes written down, so I was afraid I wasn't going to have enough to say.
But I think we had plenty to say. And I think we found things to say along the way that weren't prepared. And this has been Once More with Feelings with Beth and Michelle. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Blue Sky at OMWFPod, or visit our page oncemorewithfeelings.podbean.com, or send us an email at omwfpod@gmail.com. Take a moment to please subscribe and rate us on iTunes. And if you're on YouTube, you can definitely send us a note there, subscribe, and rate us there as well.
We'd love to hear from any of you and all of you about music, movies, even suggest a book or two.
Thank you so much for our first music podcast. This was interesting. I actually really enjoyed this.
Yeah, I did too.
It's a nice departure from movies once in a while to sit back and really think about how music evolves and how it affects us individually.
And it can be, even if a writer has something in mind, music is very subjective.
Surely is. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I have the pleasure of introducing an alternative indie folk version of Death Cab for Cuties, I'll Follow You Into the Dark by Annie MCD. You can follow her at an.nie.mcd on TikTok. Please enjoy.